The day where I was in one of our guest rooms in our house, just praying out to God and just asking for him to show me okay, what is the right next step here? What is our actual purpose? And in that moment, I believe it was, something divine, right? To show me what to do next. In that moment, I got on social media, which is the opposite of what you should do to look for answers.
Seeking God, go to Facebook.
Yeah, I was like, thanks God. All right, let's check Facebook. And what was interesting is I was scrolling on Facebook and I saw a video of Ariel teaching a Facebook live training, helping her clients. And underneath that video, I started to see all of these comments from all of these women saying how much Ariel's training has changed their lives. And at that moment, it kind of hit me okay, wait a second. It's not like I'm an entrepreneur and Ariel is meant to be my assistant. We're both entrepreneurs. We are both visionary entrepreneurs with unique passions and skill sets. And I remember just at that moment, it felt like the scales fell from my eyes because I ran out of that room and I found Ariel and I was like, hey, listen, I am so sorry. I support you. I recognize your value and I know that you are here to make an impact and I am too. So what if we took our individual passions and pointed them towards a unified purpose?
Well, welcome to Pillow Talk. I'm Grant. This is my wife, Stephanie. And after almost 38 years of marriage, we've discovered how to communicate for better understanding and yoke our differences to pull stronger toward a common purpose.
As certified marriage coaches, we want to help reignite passion and connectedness in your marriage through intimate, authentic, and unguarded conversations. Now let's have some pillow talk.
Let's do it. All right, welcome to Pillow Talk. Today, we have very special guests with us. This couple helps married entrepreneurs, and they help them get crystal clear on their business goals. They help them attract their ideal clients. They help them then create content that sells and positions them as experts. Yeah. And then last but not least, they develop a step-by-step blueprint that helps you scale your business to a level that you want without compromising your marriage. Yeah. They have been very instrumental in our growth.
Yeah, we've experienced this firsthand. So
and it's been in areas, not just in understanding, but also the execution of our business. Yeah. And while maintaining an intimacy that we are adamant about, that's what we teach. What
Pillow Talk is.
So I just want to take a moment and say how much we appreciate them being here. They are special, not just because of what they do, but who they are. They're friends, and we are so thankful to have them on here. So take a second, and if you're at home, applaud. They're worth it. Welcome, Couplepreneurs, Kyle and Ariel Tresch to Pillow Talk.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome, guys.
Hey, this has been a long time coming. Yeah, so I'm so excited. We're finally here. We finally made it to Pillow Talk.
And Grant, thank you so much for the amazing introduction.
Yeah. Well, I hope we live up to the expectation now. No pressure.
I love that you guys have such a unique niche. I mean, to me, it is unique because we've been in businesses together for a long time. And so it's not like this was new to us, but what I loved was you guys gave such practical, I'm an information nut. I got to see it. I can't just hear about it. And it can't be just this constant dribble of things. It was fantastic. The way you presented it, the process that you guys do when you're engaging with a married couple on working on their businesses. And I love that it didn't really matter what the business was. It applied to anything. And we actually worked with you guys on one business, but I actually use it in my travel business. It's helped actually refine some things in the last few months. I just wanted to give you guys a shout out for that. So very unique space in that you do give a blueprint. And you guys are so great. You were so great to work with our personality. It wasn't like you were, hey, here's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, and X. And if you don't like that, then okay, give me your money and leave. That wasn't how it was. So we loved it. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah. So I'm sure I missed something. So what would you like our listeners to know about you that I'm sure I overlooked?
Yeah. So, I guess we could tell you a little bit just about how Couplepreneurs kind of came to be and why we are doing what it is that we do, especially because Stephanie has such amazing things to say about it. So thank you. But I know for Kyle and I, when we first got together, and I know a lot of your listeners, you guys work with, or your listeners are couples and married couples. And for us specifically, when we first got together, we were so grateful that we were both very driven entrepreneurs. And we really were just attracted to each other a lot for that, because there was a lot of like-mindedness. We were both driven. We both had goals. And I remember when we first got together, again, we were both driven entrepreneurs. Kyle was a marketing consultant at the time. And I ran a dog grooming salon in our hometown of Ohio. And I was also involved in the nonprofit space. And I remember when we got married that we got married in the Bahamas, first of all. That was a big near and dear place to my heart. It's a place that I loved so much. I've always loved since I was a little girl. And I remember we were standing under the sun in the Bahamas. We were on the beach and we were surrounded by our friends and family, and you could, smell the salt in the air. You could feel the sand under your feet. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at Kyle and like, we were just thinking, I think we were both thinking that there's no way it can get any better. But at the same time, we were like, it's only going to get better from here, right? We're getting married. Everything is perfect. It felt so amazing at that time. And we thought it was only going to get better from there, but that's not quite what happened.
No, unfortunately not. So like, as much as we would love to just end the story right there and say, yeah. And then they sailed off to the sea and it was happily ever after. The reality was right after that, we had what we call like, how people say that you go through a honeymoon phase, you guys know that? Well, we had an we had an anti-honeymoon stage, like where it was like where the dream wedding turned into a nightmare life, unfortunately. And I think a lot of entrepreneur couples do go through this, where if you're listening to this and you and your significant other both are entrepreneurial, there's an amazing benefit that comes with that. Yeah. But there are also some curses that come with that. And we got to taste those curses like head on. So as soon as we got married, we just went back to work. Like we got back from our traveling around, and Ariel went to her side of the house to build her business. I went to my side of the house to build my business. And we just became two ships in the night. I was so focused on growing my digital marketing consulting business. Ariel was actually growing an organic marketing coaching business at that time. And the only time we would ever talk would be about business. And I'm sure like maybe you guys have been there as well, right? Like where you like you do connect during the day, but the connections during the day are business talks, it's masterminding about ideas and offers and financial goals. And all that is good, except what we discovered pretty quickly is that in that discussion where business dominated every conversation, we actually lost a lot of our intimacy. Yeah. We felt like we were roommates living in one household that just so happened to be married.
And how long were you married at that time?
At this time, I mean, it was 2 months.
Yeah.
Like by the time we got to this point, right. And it was like, it was surprising. We're like, uh-oh, shoot. Like we knew we were meant to be married together, but we were like, uh-oh, did we take a wrong turn somewhere? Yeah. Like, and I know, oh, I'm sorry. Are you going to say something?
No, I'm just sorry. That's soon. Wow. Bless your heart.
Yeah, it was kind of like a wake up call, right? Like just getting hit in the face with cold water. And what was so crazy was I knew, just because we are believers, as I know you guys are as well. I knew that God brought us together for a purpose. I just didn't know what that looked like. And at the time when we were dealing with this new tension that just arose in our relationship, I thought maybe the purpose was for Ariel just to become my assistant or something like that. I was like, I know, Ariel, you're growing this, but my business is already, grown to XYZ amount of, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we're scaling companies by millions of dollars. Just come and work for me. Yeah. And as you guys can imagine, being a true blue entrepreneur, Ariel did not like that very much because it was like me trying to shove her into a box. Mm-hmm. But I was very confused, I'll be honest. And the day that changed everything and the day that kind of birthed like this whole Couplepreneurs concept was a day where I was in one of our guest rooms in our house, just praying out to God and just asking for him to like show me like, okay, what is the right next step here? What is our actual purpose? And in that moment, I believe it was, something divine, right? To show me like what to do next. In that moment, I got on social media, which is like the opposite of what you should do to look for answers.
Seeking God, go to Facebook.
Yeah. It's like, I was like, thanks God. All right, let's check Facebook. And what was interesting is I was scrolling on Facebook and I saw a video of Ariel teaching a Facebook live training, helping her clients. And underneath that video, I started to see all of these comments from all of these women saying how much Ariel's training has changed their lives. And at that moment, it kind of hit me like, okay, wait a second. It's not like I'm an entrepreneur and Ariel is meant to be my assistant. We're both entrepreneurs. Yeah. We are both visionary entrepreneurs with unique passions and skill sets. And I remember just like at that moment, it felt like the scales fell from my eyes because I ran out of that room and I found Ariel and I was like, hey, listen, I am so sorry. I support you. I recognize your value, and I know that you are here to make an impact, and I am too. So what if we took our individual passions and pointed them towards a unified purpose? And that question of how can we make both your dreams and my dreams happen at the same time became just like our running question that helped us go from feeling stressed and disoriented and disunified to being more unified than ever before.
Yeah.
So fast forward from there, we started going on date nights more. We started prioritizing our relationship. And as our relationship got better, wouldn't you know it, our businesses actually got better. So like
Crazy.
this at this point, we were plateaued in our revenue. But as we started prioritizing our relationship, Ariel went from having, what was it, like 5 clients to 25?
25 clients.
25 clients in a matter of months. And because that subconscious blocker in her mind of thinking I don't support her, or that her business success would lead to tension in our relationship, that was now gone. Now we're free to just support each other in our individual roles. And my business grew as well. Like, all glory to God. It was just like an amazing lesson we learned. So as you can imagine, now that we're like, okay, we're figuring out how to get on the same page. We're figuring out how to navigate the complexity of being both entrepreneurs in one relationship. We started posting stories of our date nights and all the fun things we were doing. And people would reach out to us saying, how do you guys make that work? How do you make it work where you and your significant other are both entrepreneurs and you seem happy?
Yeah, without killing each other.
Without killing each other. Yeah, it's like, I would imagine like we'd be the first to tell you, there's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of stresses that come with having 2 entrepreneurs in one relationship, but we didn't even know it at the time, but we were walking in the purpose that God was preparing for us, because what we were figuring out at that time was how to navigate that.
Yeah.
And just as we started just moving forward in our life, more and more people would come up to us and ask us questions about how we make this work. And one day we're like, you know what? Maybe this is what we're meant to do, is to actually step into a space, like you guys said, that a lot of people aren't in, a niche that not a lot of people occupy, and help other entrepreneur couples grow and scale businesses without compromising the relationship. Yeah. So we took a leap of faith. We started a business called Couplepreneurs, which is a mentorship and coaching company. And we launched it in 2022. And almost instantly, we were flooded with people who we were so honored and so blessed to help. Yeah. And as a result of that, not only has our company taken off, but all of the couples that we've had the privilege to work with, like, they're seeing results that they've never seen before. They're going on date nights more than ever before. And just last month, over 50% of our clients had their record sales month. Like, it was just crazy, like all the results that God is bringing in our life, just confirming this purpose that we were originally brought into. But what's so weird, if I could just summarize it with this, is that what brought us together, like, God obviously had a purpose that brought us together, but we couldn't see it. But through the pain and through the lessons that we learned, being both entrepreneurs in one relationship, that actually turned into the purpose that we are now happy to fulfill. Yeah. So that is how Couplepreneurs is born. And like Grant and Stephanie said, we were very blessed to work with them on their business, as well as a variety of other couples all around the world.
A couple of the guinea pigs in your...
What was that?
There were a couple of your guinea pigs there when you were getting...
Yeah, that's right. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. You guys are there from the beginning. You saw us when we started from absolute zero. So you have a unique perspective.
You know, I love what you were talking about there, though, because I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, especially men, that feel like, okay, I'm rocking it in business, but my marriage sucks, or the other way around. You know, well, our marriage is good, but the business sucks. Well, it's because the two are totally linked. Even if you're not entrepreneur couples, if your home life is bad, I promise you, your business isn't as excellent as you think it is.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we've seen the same even with people who work in like corporate careers. It's the same. If there is an issue in the home, it shows up in every different area of your life, because like you said, they're linked, and the joy and the fulfillment and everything is, in my opinion, sort of dependent on what's happening in the home, because it's such a majority of your life, and you have the person that you have to live with, right? And you have to feel an immense amount of satisfaction with that person for that satisfaction to pour over into the other areas.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, you don't have business problems, you have personal problems that show up in your business. Yeah, and I would imagine that shows up in every area of life whenever the home is rocked out. Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you, we've been married for longer than you've been alive.
That's true.
And which is really depressing. But
I think it's amazing, actually. That's the way I would look at it.
I think it's amazing that you guys look so young.
I remember scanning through Instagram, and I came across you guys.
Mm.
You're talking about marriage. And I think I told Stephanie, I was like, who do they think they are? I mean, they've been married 20 minutes.
For sure.
12 years old.
Right.
There's no way they know anything really. I mean, just wait. And then that was one of the cool things about getting to meet you and listen to you on a regular basis is the wisdom beyond years, your story. Yeah. You know, I would say, and I mean, we haven't got to spend enough time together that I can prove this, but you can say no if I'm wrong. I would say that you're just very teachable people.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not gonna say you're wrong there because you're definitely not. I would say we were very blessed to have mentors at a young age that showed us how to navigate these different things. I've had mentors in my business. I've had mentors spiritually, and I've very, very open to the leading of the Holy Spirit in the Bible in terms of how to manage my relationship and my walk with God. So if by teachable, you mean open and willing to learn, absolutely. Like, I think both of us, one of our core values is growth. Like it's at the top of the list for everything we do is just growth. And if that's part of what led to the wisdom that I guess you see in us, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that's, I think teachability is one of the biggest things that it's so important in the intimacy of a marriage, even to be teachable between each other. And that's one of the things you guys were talking about there was that you kind of were open to each other's differences in your entrepreneurial journey. And in the process of that, even though there were some rough spots there, you were able to find common ground because neither one of you was like, no, I'm only going to do what I want to do. It was like, how do we blend this? How do we take something that's separate, that's both great, but when we add the purpose of our marriage to this, it actually elevates. When we get onto common ground, we're actually elevated, and what we have is a stronger piece. And your marriage purpose is always designed for somebody else, and that's what you guys are doing. Marriage purpose now, and I love how you lay that out, because so many people think that purpose is something that you just walk onto a bookshelf and pull off and find. You know, it's like a thing you have to work through it, and yours will morph as far as over the wonderful years that you have ahead of you. But to see that together and to recognize that when you become purpose focused, you know, our friends Greg and Julie Gorman talk about that. That's like one of their heartbeats is helping couples. If you'll become purpose focused, then a lot of those things begin to dissolve as far as the tensions and the conflicts, because all of a sudden now you're looking forward and you're saying, what's the good thing that we can take and move forward with? And being both willing to recognize your strengths and the value that you both have. And you mentioned core values. That's huge. So talk a little bit more about how maybe your core values, you said that you have growth as one together. Maybe talk a little bit for couples on how your core values help you navigating this unique space, both in your own personal entrepreneurship as a married couple, but also what you've developed as you're helping other couples, like as you kind of do that together with other people. That was a long question. Sorry.
No, I loved it. Yeah.
Don't have to repeat it.
So one thing that I will say just to start, and then I'll kind of let you speak to that, is one of my core values personally, and actually I think it is, I would imagine it's something that's very important to you as well, but one of my core values has been authenticity. And I think one of the ways that it's shown up in our marriage, especially how it plays into our day-to-day life is, in our business, is for me, there have been times where, I would notice that other people in the online space, in our industry, things like that, are kind of putting on a front in order, whether it's in the marketing space, in the coaching space, and the, all of these different areas online. We see so many people that rise to fame, and they're kind of putting on a front and a performance. They're not really being authentic to who they are. And therefore, I think they're leading people astray in a lot of ways. And I know that one of the things when we were actually pretty young, I noticed in Kyle was he would sometimes, I love you. Let's just start there. I love it.
Here it comes. I have no idea what's about to happen.
He would sometimes act dumber than he actually was.
Oh, this is true.
And it's because we were always, this is when we were like, just post college, and I would notice that he would be in social situations and he would just act dumber. And one day I like pulled him aside. I'm like, hey, you're smarter than this. Like, you don't need to talk. You don't need to dumb yourself down. You don't need to talk like that in order to like be in this group of people. And I think that showed up a lot in our business, because one thing that has become so core to who we are and what it is that we do is that we are always in complete integrity with how we show up and what we look like online, and making sure that what we are showing is actually what we're living by. And that's like something that we've become almost obsessed with in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And how it relates to anybody listening, if you and your significant other are both in a relationship, if you understand what the other person values, or if you yourself have a specific value that you hold dear, like for Ariel, authenticity is very high, and for me as well. Like, you can hold each other accountable to those values. I think that's very important because both of us value authenticity. What she was able to do was hold me accountable to be more of who I actually was.
Yeah.
I actually am a lot more intellectual than I like to come off sometimes, you know, and, Ariel called me out on that. And I'll also say, though, like, how values specifically apply towards the work that we do with our clients that we lead through in growing businesses together. It really comes down to how those values actually enforce and influence decision making. So I'll give you a very, very easy example. Let's say our top priorities or our top values are, faith, and then we have health, and then we have our relationship, and then we have the business. Like, if growing all those things is a priority or a value to us because we value all of those things, what tends to happen in a lot of entrepreneur relationships, but also just relationships period, is that every single value can sometimes fill the number one priority spot. And what that does is that actually makes decision making as a couple very, very difficult. So, for example, let's say your business is a number one priority and your health is a number one priority. Well, what happens if you both as a couple agree that, hey, at 5 o'clock, we're going to put down our work and we're going to go to the gym? And 5 o'clock hits and you still have more work to do. You have a decision to make. You can either A, honor the value to your health and go to the gym, or B, you can honor the value to work in your business. And what we do with our couples is we help them get very, very clear on what it is that they actually value. Not what they say they like, what they actually value, and create what we call a priority hierarchy. Because just like if you've ever, Grant and Stephanie, have you ever done martial arts? You ever practice martial arts? Okay. I like to use this as a metaphor. I was
Does watching them count, or?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
It does. I am a
playing
black
video
belt.
games probably counts. Yeah, you're a black belt.
I did.
I actually got up to a 2nd degree brown belt, and I know. And to me, one of the things I learned doing karate as a kid is that you practice in the dojo, like practice all the fundamental moves, so that way in the real field or in the real life, you're just ready to go. And very similarly, if you have a priority hierarchy of your values laid out ahead of time, as a couple, it allows you to make decisions with a predetermined set of rules. So when you're in the field, when you're in the game, and you're in the fight, you just know exactly what to do when certain values and priorities clash. So I hope that answers maybe one of the questions that you asked.
I love it. Yeah, that leads a whole nother. That's beautiful, because even right there, you're hearing the accountability. If you have some things you're managing for and you know that, then if I'm tempted to want to finish something up in the office, but we've already pre-assigned that this is valuable to us, and it's like you have the platform to say, well, babe, hey, I know this is something we value, so come on, I'll see if I can help you finish this later. Come on, let's go ahead and work out, and then you can come back in later if you want to, or something. And it helps us to be accountable to each other, to have that, because priority can only be one thing at a time. You can't have two priorities at once. That's not a definition of priority. Priority is prior to everything else, right?
Exactly.
So in that moment, but what I love what you just said, I think people do get stuck on that, because they think, well, my work's my priority, which means I spend 24/7 in it. Well, it's in the season of the day or the season that you're in. Where does it fall in that moment? That's the priority, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be 24/7 for it to be a priority 8 hours of the day,
Yep.
Yeah. And in fact, I'd even go as far to say that the things that you're valuing or putting as a priority in your life can come in seasons too. You know, there's seasons, especially we see with business and family, right? There's seasons where your family comes above the business. And then there's some times where you have to have you have to agree upon the fact like, hey, this is a season of growth in our business. So maybe, you know, we're not going to, you know, go out 4 nights a week. Maybe we're only going to go out 1 or 2. And like, you know, there can be that seasonality of your priorities, but they have to be agreed upon between you and your partner.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
That so speaks into what so many couples are seeking, I think.
Yeah. I'd be curious now, like, I would say almost 100% of all arguments comes from violating the other person's values. And so knowing the value is very important. But one thing we've discovered, and I was kind of wondering if you've ever done this, is we had to define our definition of that value. So like Stephanie and me both, family's on our top 5. But Stephanie sees family as quality time. I see family as in when they need you, you drop everything and go.
Okay.
So I could come home and the grandkids are here for the 14th time that week. And I'm like, do we ever get time alone? And she says, I just fixed dinner. Where are you going? Well, the water pipes just froze or something at one of the kids' house, you know? So it's 2 different definitions. But so now that we know that, she doesn't get upset because she just immediately says, oh, if kids need him, he's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and of course, it's easier for me, even from the side that I love my grandkids, you know, so I'm not as like, oh, crap, the grandkids are here again.
Yeah, that's not what you mean.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm just like, she needs her time. And if she's not getting that, she's not fulfilled. She's not happy.
So you're like, when you guys talked about authenticity, I'm sure if you probably spent some time talking about that, you would probably each define that a little differently as to what that looks like to each of you. And that's, you know, it's just an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think in terms of authenticity being a shared value, it's interesting you guys say that, because even as you're talking about it, I'm like, you know what? That is true.
Yeah.
So there's, even though you may say that we're wise beyond our years, we're still learning, even from you guys as well. Because like, even as I'm talking about this, authenticity sometimes for me could mean just bluntly telling the truth. That's just more my nature. If I could just speak the way I want to all the time, I would just like directly all the time, just be like, no, you're stupid. Go do this. Like, not saying that I ever say that to Ariel, but that's like how I kind of view authenticity. And
why waste words, right? That aren't authentic.
Exactly. It's just, here's my authentic thought.
I don't call anybody stupid. You might say the idea is stupid.
Right. That's true. That's true. I don't call people names, but still, you get my point, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whereas like authenticity is something that we've had, like that value specifically, we've had to work on. Okay, like that's not how that is necessarily most wisely expressed. It's just Kyle's unfiltered, harsh
That's
thoughts.
true
Sometimes.
too. You can hold a value very close and just learn how to present that well. So that it's like a velvet covered brick, right? It's solid and strong, but the outside's got a little soft coating so it doesn't cut somebody's head open when they bump up against your
Okay.
I like that.
That's a good metaphor.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. It's funny. We used to travel up to Colorado and preach at our friend's church. And one time we got done and someone came up and they said, that was so good, but why don't you like people?
Someone said that to you?
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean? And they said, you're just so direct and forceful. I said, I love you enough to tell you you're stupid.
Yeah, there you go.
If you are, you need to know it. And so I can relate to you.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to temper.
Get along so well with you guys. Yeah. We're like 4 peas in a pod here.
Yeah. Stephanie's one over there going, don't do that. Don't do that. But so you guys both have run successful businesses and you deal with couples that are entrepreneurial. Now, do you deal with couples that are in 2 separate businesses that work together, or do you only deal with couples that are trying to work together to create one business?
We actually currently work with both types. So whether you own you and your significant other own separate businesses or you own one business together, we have different systems, processes, and ways of approaching both scenarios.
Yeah.
And the reason we can say that is because we've lived both scenarios. And for us specifically, though there are different complexities and nuances that do come when you have two businesses in one relationship, a lot of the same dynamics that apply to couples who are running one business do apply to them as well. So I would say, about 30% of our clients own separate businesses, and then the other 70% all own one business together.
Yeah, that's about right.
And we're very blessed, all glory to God, that depending on which category you fall into, there hasn't been any sort of negative backlash about that. You could be successful in either scenario.
Yeah. So what about a couple, maybe I'm thinking of a couple of friends that we have. What about a couple who one of them is entrepreneurial, the other one is just more supportive, but maybe they're not the entrepreneurial part. Is the program going to help? I mean, I would say yes to this, but I'd like to hear your output on that. But helping a couple like that, where maybe it's helping the person that's maybe not entrepreneurial be able to see how to support well what that entrepreneurial person is doing on a daily basis, right? Because sometimes if you're not that strong, aggressive business person, then you don't really understand why this person wants to work 12 hours a day, or why they have to be on social media doing stuff, or why, is an opportunity to help, even if you're not both a business owner, to help that one support the other maybe.
Yeah, we do have a couple examples of that. You want to tell them that?
Yeah, as I say, so we've worked with couples where one person is the entrepreneur, they own the business, and their spouse or partner doesn't, but they've considered or toyed with the idea of their partner maybe coming into the business with them. So that's kind of a dynamic and a scenario that we have worked with people in that way. However, traditionally, we do either want them to either be both entrepreneurs, or, one owns the business and the other person either works with them or is considering coming in to work with them. And the only reason why that's our preference of who we work with is just because that's our experience. Our experience and who we can relate to is the people who generally are both pretty driven, whether they are running two businesses or have one together, or again, are just considering the idea of the other person coming on board.
Yeah.
Which is the name Couplepreneur, not entrepreneur that's married.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good stuff.
It is good. So what would you say are some benefits and disadvantages of both those scenarios, being working together in the same business and, being separate, but still both entrepreneurial?
Yeah. So I would say some advantages in general is just like of being entrepreneurs, period, is that you both are like-minded and you can both be goal-oriented. There's some people who are a little bit more present-minded. They're not so much future-focused. And generally people who are entrepreneurs are like thinking of the future. They're thinking of their goals. So that's like a all across the board big pro of people who are both entrepreneurs in either scenario. But those who are in business together, I think a really big advantage of that is the fact that you almost have a built-in team member with you. You have somebody that not only are you both driving towards the same vision, but you are both, you can have separate roles. You almost have like that separate built-in arm that you don't have to go hire and pay an extra salary or whatever. You have that person that you can work with. And then on the other side, I would say an advantage of people who are in separate businesses is if you are both driven towards different things or have different passions, you can both head in those directions of your passion, but still be working towards a unified purpose of growing businesses, growing your family, maybe providing for your family, creating a legacy for your family. All those different things can be a unified purpose that you're heading towards, even if you're in two separate businesses. Is there anything you would add to that?
No, I think that pretty much sums up.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, the core summary of like why it's really good to have two entrepreneurs in one relationship is there's an exponential output for the input you put in. So have you guys ever heard of that analogy of how much weight one draft horse can pull? Have you heard this? I think we probably told that a couple of times to you. It's like they found out one draft horse can pull 8,000 pounds of weight. And what they assumed is that if you put two draft horses pulling a cart, that they could pull double the weight. Makes sense, right? But what they found out is that if you have 2 draft horses, they can actually pull not twice the weight, but 3 times the weight, if not even more. So how that law of physics kind of applies towards couplepreneurship is that when you have 2 people who are dedicated to going towards the same goal, you actually can pull 3 times the weight of the average entrepreneur. So that's kind of like the unfair advantage that you have. But Grant, because you asked, there's also disadvantages too, right? Like it's not all just sunshine and rainbows. A lot of the disadvantages you probably already heard us talk about, like in our anti-honeymoon, which could be summarized as because we are both business focused, it can be hard to turn work mode off. And that is a learned skill that we're still developing. And a lot of our, we help our clients do that as well. Number 2, it's to make sure that as the businesses are running, that you're still maintaining a kind of the more intimate romantic side of your relationship. Because again, if both of us are logical minded people who could just solve problems all day for us and for other people, when we, at the end of the night, if we're out to dinner and we try to light candles, it's kind of weird to like sit across somebody with the candles lit and talk about like how to exponentially scale your Facebook ads for 6x ROI. It doesn't mix. So we have to be very intentional about changing the moods, whether it's changing the way we dress or changing the way that we approach our date nights together, to really flip the switch from, oh, now we're entrepreneurs to, okay, no, we are still romantic, intimate, married people. Yeah. And I think that as we made that part of our relationship better, it caused every other area of our life to get much better as well.
Yeah. And just to speak to, like, again, if you have 2 different businesses, we see that can sometimes multiply, right? Because the complexity can multiply, because if you're running one business, at least, you're both maybe heading up different roles within one business. But if you have 2 separate businesses, that's 2 directions, 2 things that are moving forward, and the complexity can multiply. And that's what we found early in our businesses and in our story, is that we had 2 separate businesses. We had to figure out how to unify our purpose and how to make that work. And now it feels like, now we run one business together. It feels like this is not easier, but, we feel like we can do anything because we've had experience on both sides.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think experience is great. I think that definitely speaking into that really helps people when they can, relate to what you're saying, and they can see that picture in their own business, like, oh, okay. And how many times have you heard somebody say something that just totally lifted a weight because you're like, oh, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, here's a way out. Here's a roadmap. Here's a blueprint. And that's what I love about what you guys do, is it does give a blueprint, and it really helps people step up into that, unique space of their own businesses. But definitely, I love what you just said about being intentional about changing your atmosphere and your environment and how you think. And I think that is such an easy thing to do, but nobody does it very well.
Right.
Like, I have to work on that. I work from home. And so like today, I'm like, okay, today I'm going to dress. I know he's going to be home early, so I'm going to not wear my sweatpants in my office. I'm going to put some makeup on it because nobody else sees me all day. I work from home on the phone, but it's being intentional to, even though that's not his workspace, to not create the same old yuck, so that's a super big tip right there for the listeners, to do something that simple. If you're going to have dinner at home, we'll just go in the room and change and put something else on and spray some perfume on or some cologne. At least not be stinky and nasty when you come to dinner.
To me, it's also kind of like, if you work separate, then like when we're not doing our pillow talk and our Forever with Purpose marriage stuff, I actually have a job, and Stephanie actually has a job as well. And so it's so easy to come home, me and my t-shirt that I wear every day, and just be happy with that, but what she prefers is for me to go change my clothes, and then I don't always look the same.
Yeah, he literally has a uniform.
I've always, it's kind of like, having makeup sex.
Right.
You can either fight, or she can just go put on some makeup.
I am learning so many new phrases from this conversation. I love that. That is so good.
So now when you say makeup sex, it's a whole different thing. Like,
oh my gosh, is that now? That is wisdom right there. So good. Oh my gosh, I love that.
But I mean, it's the same deal as not changing your shirt. It's very easy if the lady works at home to just always get up, go out straight in the office in her sweats, PJs, whatever, just go to work. Especially if you're as driven as Stephanie is, or she can say, I'm also married, So I'm going to fix myself up, which she just did say that.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some things you do to keep that separate, since you both work out of, you're literally in the same spot all day?
Yeah.
All day. Yeah. Well, this is a really fun discussion because a lot of what you guys just talked about are some of the things that we do. And again, we stumbled upon this on accident, and then we're very blessed to be able to create frameworks that other people can follow. So just a few things that we do to transition out from like work mode into romantic mode. Number one, we build in transition times between work and time we're together. And that transition time can simply look like an hour, but like an hour from stopping work to having a date night together. And in that transition time, what I like to do specifically, especially because my mind could just go in a million different directions, is to recenter and refocus on maybe some of the memories that I had with Ariel, some of the times that we spent together, and just like I'll literally pull my phone out and watch videos from our wedding to remind me of, okay, this is my wife here. This is not just my awesome business partner. This is someone who I'm excited to be with. And that transition time before our weekly date night, which of course we also have, is very important. So much so that we even incentivize our clients to go on weekly date nights. We do a date night challenge where we like give away.
You can get a Starbucks gift card doing that.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. You guys got a Starbucks gift card for going on date nights. And, yeah. We have people go to resorts. Like it's just, that's so important. Yeah. Also, what we also do is during the actual date night, I learned this from another mentor. I have something called a treasure hunt mentality that I always like to go into the date with. And a treasure hunt mentality is simply like you're across the table from your significant other, and your whole goal is to find out something new about them that you did not know before. It's so easy to like, especially when you're like with each other for as long as you are, to feel like you know everything about the other person. Yeah. But if you made it your mission to hunt for that quote unquote treasure, which is that new thing about your significant other that you don't know about, it makes the conversation much more present, and you're not thinking about all of the other things you have to do at work. And then lastly, I guess it would be more surface level, but it's, especially for us guys, it's very important, is Ariel she will dress up a little bit nicer. She will put on makeup. And to me, I guess dumb guy logic is, I told her one day, I'm like, honestly, I just need a visual cue. That's all I need. It's just a visual cue that's like, that you're open to be more romantic, and we're not going to talk about business, and like, I'm good from there. That's all I need.
I love it. And I think we've actually come up with that same thing. Yeah. It's visual. It is like, what am I going to do intentionally, consistently, that tells him, hey, I'm not thinking about work now. This is about us. This is our time together. And yeah, I think that's huge. I don't think that's a small thing at all.
Yeah. One other thing that I will add too is when it comes to like, this is one of those like tried and true, common pieces of advice, but like, to put the phones away. But one thing that I think takes it a little step further is actually not having your phone like sitting on the table with you. Like if you're out to dinner, like having that phone sitting on the table. I was listening to I think it was a TED Talk or something, and they were talking about how when your phone is in your visual like line of sight, your brain is still activating all of the different, dopamine and all the things that get released when like you get a notification or like something goes off, and it makes you want to check your phone. And it actually decreases the amount of attention that you can pay, the attention you could pay to your spouse, when even your phone is just like in your line of sight, even if you're not using it, even if it's turned off.
Good.
And so I think another thing is just like putting the phone away. And I think it not only signals to you like, hey, I'm going to be present with my spouse, but it also signals to your spouse like, hey, they're actually going to prioritize me and pay attention to me right now.
Yeah, I love that. And if you have that space once a week, you can work really hard hours, right? Wouldn't you agree? Really hard hours and really have some difficult things. If you know at the end of that week or the end of that night, that day, that space is going to be there. Yeah, that's one of the things that's become very critical for us, is to establish that, is that we both know when those spaces are going to be, and we manage for those very strongly. And so those are great. Those are fantastic hacks right there. Yeah. I love that. We might do a pillow talk and just steal all your information.
That's Go for it. It's yours.
I know that.
Tested, proven.
I was like just scribbling on my knee here.
Yeah, we've been known to
plagiarize.
Plagiarize, yeah, for sure.
So. Full permission. Go for it.
You got it.
Anybody that can help.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. I love the transition time. I think that's huge. That was huge. That, to tell people you have permission to have a transition time.
Mhm.
It's not walk into the space and expect your spouse to just be immediately romantic and just be immediately engaged with you. That there needs to be a transition, and then to honor what they need for that transition to look like.
Yes.
Maybe that's going and taking a shower. Maybe that's doing what you do, scrolling through some stuff, or maybe that's sitting
Maybe
quietly.
the VHS of your marriage. That's what would happen.
The VHS.
I don't even think we have one.
There you go. Yeah, just pop that right in there.
Yeah. I love that.
Together.
That's super great. And that's what I love about you guys. So I hope this conversation comes across well, because what I want our viewers, I always say that.
There's you too.
Well, that's true. The people listening that we care so much about, you can be in business and ministry together, and there's still so many ways to elevate and have a fantastic marriage inside of that. And that it just takes being creative and learning and listening to others and taking some of these things and trying them. What one of those four, I would encourage people to take one of those four this week and say, what can I do to create a movement from our work time to our couple time, so that we're in a good space right there.
I remember too, we also heard a preacher say one time that it sounded so, I was almost like blasphemy when he said it. He said, don't put God first. I was like, oh, don't say that, and he says, put him in the middle of everything you do.
Oh, that's
like,
interesting.
And that just changed me and Stephanie's life after that. Because as soon as you start going 1, 2, 3, then you enter into condemnation when number 1 isn't 1 and number 2 isn't 2. Hatred of condemnation. It's like, no, if me and Stephanie's together, God's there. We just put him there, and it really changed a lot of things. We're going to wrap it up with this, because I want to respect your time and you not ever want to come back. And I want you to take me to Guanabanas.
Yeah.
Anytime anybody that's listening to this is in Jupiter, if you want to go to Guanabanas, just let us know. But Grant and Stephanie will be there with us, but that's the caveat.
We'll take you guys. Just call us first, and we'll take you down there to eat with Couples.
We'll put their phone number down in the comments.
There you go.
No. We're kidding, guys.
Seriously, if you are entrepreneurial and you're married, reach out to this couple. It'll change your life. Where can they find you all?
So the first place would be our Instagram. So our Instagram handle is instagram.com, the @Couplepreneurs, as well as we have a Facebook group. If you go into the Facebook search bar and you search for Successful Couples in Business, that's the name of our Facebook group. It should pop up, should be the first, probably only Facebook group for entrepreneur couples that should show up. And we would love to have people in there as well.
Yeah, the reason why we created that group, by the way, is just like what Ariel said. There just is not a community out there where two entrepreneurs in one relationship can get together and talk and network and learn information that really only applies to us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of business information out there. There's a lot of marriage information out there, and all of it is great.
Yeah.
What we found in the marketplace was that there wasn't a lot of people who were teaching specific strategies to navigate the complexities of a couplepreneur relationship. And that's why we created the Successful Couples in Business Facebook group. So if you decide to join that group, it's completely free. There's only couplepreneurs in there. Just let us know that you came from Grant and Stephanie's podcast. So that way we could give Grant and Stephanie more credit and potentially even more dinners at Guanabanas.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, we love you guys. We certainly appreciate all that you've done for us. And it's definitely always in the top of our week. We work on stuff all the time that we learn from you guys. And so it's a valuable tool.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. And right back at you. You guys are such a wealth of wisdom, and we're so happy to see you guys sharing it on this podcast and bringing in amazing guests. But we are honored to be a part of it. So thank you.
That's right.
Guys.
We all have a great week, and we can't wait to be with you again next week on Pillow Talk.